And we're live! Welcome to the Othello, what is it, June Barn Book Club?
Who are we?
This year has been going by much too quickly, considering last year went by at a snail's pace.
This time last year we were discussing the slog that is...
The Henrys?
Yeah, I enjoyed this month. So special Pride reading, Pride show. So like last year we did a few extra things because it was Pride. So I thought first we could do the thing where like I'll read a sonnet at the beginning and you read a sonnet at the end.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I chose... Oh, hold on. Let me tweet that we're live. Duh.
Yes. Welcome to our 2 viewers who are here so far.
Amazing. Hold on. So Bridget,
sorry we were late.
Bridget had to work.
I did, yeah. I was at work, so I just got home. I rushed home for this.
It's important.
And my whole body is in pain, but it's fine.
Did you carry 2 bags today?
I did. It was my first time carrying 2 bags for all 18 holes.
That's a lot.
I'm dying.
Props. Okay. I have tweeted out. Okay.
Cool.
I will be reading sonnet number... I got this new... Look at this. Beautiful.
Oh my gosh, it's so pretty.
Sonnet number 23. As an unperfect actor on the stage, who with his fear is put besides his part, or some fierce thing replete with too much rage, whose strength's abundance weakens his own heart. So I, for fear of trust, forget to say the perfect ceremony of love's rite, and in mine own love's strength seem to decay, or charged with burden of mine own love's might. Oh, let my books be then the eloquence and dumb presagers of my speaking breast, who plead for love and look for recompense. More than that tongue that more hath more expressed, oh, learn to read what silent love hath writ, which with eyes belongs to love's fine wit. So I was looking up like the queer-coded sonnets, and obviously people have like seen like homosexual undertones in that, with the comparison of like acting like an actor on the stage, like having to act like straight in public, basically. Okay, so take it away with yours.
I thought I was gonna do mine at the end.
Oh, right, my bad. Okay. I'm tired. We're a mess today.
It's okay.
This is a time. Okay.
We're here, and that's what matters.
So the one thing we're going to do before we get into talking about the play is earlier this month on the Instagram, we asked people to share their favorite queer-coded Shakespeare characters. And so we're just going to share them. Favorite, we got multiple people said Falstaff from Henry IV, Part 1,
So
2,
true.
5. He's the only thing that's good about those plays. We have Julius Caesar, obviously, Hamlet, obviously, Portia from The Merchant of Venice. She's one of my faves. Have you read Merchant of Venice?
No, and aren't we reading that this week?
I was just wondering if you'd read it.
No, I haven't. I watched an adaptation that was like talking about The Merchant of Venice, and like the people in the play were performing The Merchant of Venice, but I haven't seen the play.
Didn't you write a paper on The Merchant of
Venice?
Yeah,
I wrote an article about that play, which was like the abridged version of Merchant of Venice, and it was like about these Jewish people performing The Merchant of Venice in a concentration camp.
Nice. It's so uplifting. Mercutio, who especially in the like Leonardo DiCaprio movie is just like straight camp, like burlesque. Brooklyn and Celia from As You Like It.
Of course, right?
The OG Cottagecore. Viola from 12th Night. Honestly, like everyone in 12th Night. The Duke and
Celia. Yeah, like at the end, they're just like, oh, all right.
And I guess so. And then people said Trinculio and Gonzalo from The Tempest. But honestly, there's many besides just those ones listed. But
yeah, you can't name them all.
I believe you said Falstaff when we did that. That was the one you...
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I said Portia, but...
I mean, I guess we could have also said Henry because...
Yeah, I love Falstaff, though. He's just so funny.
He's just so fun and out there and, like, having a good time for the most part.
He's living his best life.
Until he dies.
Yeah, he's not. Okay, so what are your general thoughts on Othello?
I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed our reading of it. I thought it went really well. even though it was just like the Othello and Iago show the whole time. Like that was good.
Me for like 90% of that.
It's like Hamlet. If Hamlet had someone else to talk
If Hamlet had someone else to talk to, yeah, then if it wasn't just Hamlet, and it wasn't 4 hours, so that was Shakespeare really. Hamlet is like the ultimate self-insert story. Like Shakespeare saw.
Like, hold on.
He was like, I hold my beer. He was like, hold my mead. I have a story to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was this your first time reading it?
Yes. I hadn't read it before. That was why you cast it, I think.
Yeah, I read this for funsies like a few years ago because I found this copy at a used book sale for 50 cents. And so I was like, I'll read it. I'm a dumbass, and I was the first time I was reading it. I'm so dumb. They kept saying the more, and I didn't. This was like 4 years ago. Since I went to school for writing, I didn't read a ton of Shakespeare in school. And so I don't know, contextually, I thought by the Moor, I just thought they meant he was like from Scotland, like the Moors of Scotland. I did not register that he was Black until like halfway through the play. And then I was like, now it's making more sense. I was like,
you're like, I see what he's doing here.
I was like, oh, okay, they're racist. All right, got it. Like, but
must have been a time reading the first half of that, not realizing.
I was very confused.
Like, wow, why do they really don't like Othello for some reason?
That's weird. I liked it again the second time too. I love the opening scene. I think it's so funny. Where they're Rodrigo and Iago. Iago's just, I think, one of the best Shakespeare villains ever.
Well, yeah, I think because he's like kind of unredeemably villainous, you know?
And it's just because, like, it's just so, like, relentlessly conniving. Like, just so evil with no uplet. And
like, there's also, like, really no way you can, like, feel for him at all.
Yeah,
like,
it's not like the kind of villain where you're like, oh, I ship it. Like, it's, and Summer was great. They were great doing it. And
I think, and it was also, like, I think also with Iago that, you can't, like, there's no way to sympathize with him, and he's just the worst the whole time.
Yeah. Well, and it's like,
and I think that's why he's kind of one of the more famous Shakespeare villains, is because he's just the one that is like, there's no good qualities there.
And you never really get to see him, like, beforehand, which is what leads going into, like, this is a Pride reading, is, like, Shakespeare scholars have been forever what Iago's motive was to do this. Like, is it just racism to aggressively destroy this man's marriage? And did he did I feel like he didn't plan for Othello to want to kill Desdemona. I think he just thought maybe he could break up the marriage. But then when Othello's like, I'll kill her, he's like, well, all right. Like, he's not like, he's like, don't poison her though, just strangle her. Like,
you have your limits.
But obviously, the main thing that a lot of people have argued is that Iago is gay and has internalized homophobia and is, like, very much attracted to Othello and is jealous of Othello's, like, undying love for Desdemona. And so it's like a combination, like, self-sabotage and, like, violent jealousy thing. Mm-hmm. And so I was actually doing some research on this, and I have this on my other computer up here. There's if you type in "is Iago gay" into YouTube, or like queer coding in Othello, a treasure trove will come up. So scholars agree that the biggest hint that he's gay is in Act 3, Scene 3. And I went back and skimmed that over, and I was like, yeah. I was like,
do you want to read any, like, bits of that?
Yeah, I highlighted some things. Well, the number one thing that people quote is at one point he says, "I am your own forever." Iago says that to Othello, which, like, if you took that, that's, we talk about Shakespeare lines taken out of context all the time, and that's one that you can just see, like, girls on Pinterest taking it, make it sound like so romantic. Yeah, that was like a racist, homophobic murderer. But so first we have.
Cute. Let's put it on a wall.
Oh my God, let's make a print. First we have, my lord, you know I love you. We have, good my lord, pardon me, though I am bound to every act of duty, I am not bound to that all slaves are free to. Utter my thoughts, why say they are vile and false, as wears the palace whereunto foul things. Like, so there's a lot of stuff where, like, Othello keeps being like, tell me what you're thinking, and he's like, I can't, and it makes me like read like, are you gay? Like, are you trying to come out?
Yeah.
We have, if it were not for your quiet nor your good, nor for my manhood, honesty or wisdom to let you know my thoughts. We have, by heaven I'll know thy thoughts, is what Othello says, and Iago says, you cannot if my heart were in your hand. He says, he keeps going, to show you love and duty that I bear you, I humbly do beseech you of your pardon for too much of I loving you. Hold on, I highlighted some more. I should be wise, for honesty's a fool. And then, picked to by foolish honesty and love, I will go on. And then he says, I lay with Cassio lately. And this article I was reading says that that's, like, back then was like kind of a play on words to say you lay with someone.
Yeah.
It's also like, you know, you fucked them.
Yeah.
And so he says, I lay with Cassio lately. And then it's like, oh, he was talking about Desdemona. And then he says, there are some kind of men so loose of soul, because since obviously back then, like, homosexuality was seen as a sin.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I also just remember during the reading, like, all of us in the chat were like, this is gay.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds so much gayer when you read it out loud. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. And then there's obviously just the fact that he so deeply hates women that it's like, sure, that's like classic misogyny that he hates women, but it's like Desdemona.
Is there another reason?
Yeah, it's like Desdemona's this very feminist character, and until Iago shows up, none of the other men show any signs of having an issue with how outspoken and confident Desdemona is, and like how, like, she asserts herself and doesn't act like what the typical wife would be back then. Like, you never see, obviously Othello doesn't feel that way about her initially. Like, literally when he comes back and greets her, she says, my love, he says, my warrior. Like, that's how he refers to her. I wrote that down when I was reading. I forgot that's how he addressed her. Right. He says, my warrior. Like, he regards her so highly. Obviously, like, Cassio regards her highly.
Yeah.
And, I mean, but Iago is just, you know, like, he starts it out like, oh, I'm doing this for Rodrigo, but then it's just like, what the fuck? Like, it unravels to where it's like, you don't give a shit about Rodrigo. You're just out here doing the most.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on all the other characters?
All the other characters are just kind of vibing, you know, they're just kind of there.
I mean, I'm harsh. I love Desdemona. That's why
I know. I love Desdemona. I think she's great. I think she's one of the better female characters that you get in, like, these plays and everything. And
the tragedies do the women so much dirtier than the comedies. Like, the tragic women rarely get to do things.
Yeah, and I thought she was a good example of, like, women who, like, got to kind of do things and, like, talk back and everything. Because she had, like, a good back and forth with Othello.
I always love the scene where she's, like, yelling at him that he has to, like, talk to Cassio.
Yeah.
He's like, some other time. She's like, well, when?
Yeah.
Like, and the fact that everyone's just like, that's Desdemona. Like.
Yeah. And, like, everyone's just like, yeah, that's how she is. Which is good.
That's how she vibes. She vibes.
Yeah. And, yeah, I just really liked her character. I also, it was fun playing Rodrigo.
Yeah.
Because, like, I was, like, kind of like a bad guy, but also, like, I just kind of wanted to be with Desdemona, you know?
Yeah, Rodrigo is, like, the character that really thinks he's calling the shots, and he's not.
He's like, I am doing things. And then everyone else is like, no.
And it's like, you're not, but okay.
You can think so, but nah.
Yeah, I mean, I like Amelia, the friend. That's, like, it's also one of the only times that I don't think the two women friends read as queer-coded. Like, I do think they genuinely read as, like, best friends. Mm-hmm. And, like, the way that, like, in the end, when Amelia is, like, banging on the door to try and help her. Yeah. And, yeah, again, it's the comedies always have like great women in them, but the tragedies, like, you know, everyone thinks like, oh, Lady Macbeth, but it's like, you know, we talked about in our reading like how badly the play does her. Like she dies halfway through and no one cares, and it makes no sense that she goes from like this super badass to like freaking out in the next scene.
She like starts freaking out and you're like,
Ophelia dies, like
Juliet. I mean, Juliet's probably the best out of the tragedies.
I think Juliet's the best, and then out of what we've read so far, I'd say Desdemona.
I'd say like Juliet, Desdemona, Lady Macbeth,
Juliet kills herself for love, so it's still like an autonomy thing. Desdemona, obviously,
and she also like she dies second, which is something that really happens.
Whereas Desdemona, you know, is murdered and violently. And
how dare she get murdered?
I mean, it's Shakespeare be killing women, that's for sure. But also, even though she gets murdered, and unlike a lot of the, I'd say, as of what we've read right now, she's killed by her husband. Is the way that Othello doesn't get away with it, like everyone's fucking appalled. Whereas like back then, like beating your wife was pretty normal. And so it's the fact that when he hits her, people are appalled, and then when he kills her, everyone's like horrified. And then she fights back until the end, like she doesn't, you know, just like lay down and die. I liked her the first. I liked her even more the second time. She's great.
I thought she was good.
Do you want to talk about, because I have the notes here on obviously. When we found out, like I remember we had this conversation when I told my dad we were going to read Othello, and it was a big deal because it was the first time a Black character was like the lead.
I remember that.
My dad said, did a Black person get to play them? And I was like, excellent question. And you and I looked it up, and the answer is no. So for the folks at home, Othello premiered on November 1st, 1604 for King James I in London. And the person who originated the role was like one of the lead actors of Shakespeare's troupe, Richard Burbage. And he was very much a white man. And Othello, the role of Othello would be played by a white person in blackface until 1825. So over 2 centuries. And then Ira Aldridge was the first Black man to play him on stage in London, and people were appalled. I also learned through me doing some Googles that this play was actually loosely inspired by a 1565 Italian prose poem by Giovanni Battista Giraldi Cinzio, which I've not read, but I thought was interesting. And obviously now, like, Othello's always played by a Black person. It would be fucked if it wasn't. But I thought that was, like, sad. And I was reading a lot of, obviously, that happened. I was reading a lot of articles. People, like, continue to debate, is this play racist or not? I think, obviously, like, we're both white. So it's, you know, like what we say with a grain of salt. I think if it came out now, it would be really racist. To be like, the Black guy is this easily manipulated into killing his white wife. But I read the play as, at the time, it's the way that Iago manipulates him into thinking his wife has cheated on him is that he viewed Desdemona as like this one person who loved him for him and didn't give in to like all the racial stereotypes and prejudice he had to deal with every day. So when he thinks that she has cheated on him with a white man, it makes him think like
distressing and
like, oh, the one person I thought loved me. And so in a way, it seems like the reading is that like racism is the villain of this. Like, I mean, obviously it's Iago, but like Iago preys on Othello's insecurity about their interracial relationship. And again, like if this came out now, I'd be like, what the fuck? Like if it had never existed and they were like, here we go, guys. But you know,
it's like a look back.
For 1604 to have a play about, you know, this interrelationship and how like, again, like it's interesting the people who are fine with it, like Cassio's fine with it, Amelia's fine with it. You know, Rodrigo and Iago. Iago is clearly appalled by it and is acting like he's not. I think that's another thing with Iago is he's also a racist and he's internally homophobic. And then clearly he's into this Black guy and he's homophobic and racist. So I'm just like, then he's angry. You Let's do an origin story of Iago. Where's that at? Somebody write it.
Right? Like what? How did you get there?
It's 0 to 100. That's the thing too, is like you get something like Macbeth and you completely see how the villains get to where they get to. Who the fuck was Iago before this? Because he just comes out the gate horrible. Like
he does. He from the start is just the worst.
I was highlighting things because I forgot that like right off the bat in the first scene they are just saying racist things. Like Rodrigo and Iago are just out here like bitching about Othello. Like they're saying they'd rather be dead than have to serve, the Moor. Iago says to Brabantio, an old black ram is tupping your white ewe, in referring to Othello and Desdemona having got married. So that's fun. And then I am one, sir, that comes to tell you your daughter and the Moor are now making the beast with two backs, which like was obviously a term for like having sex, but like with the beast, like as in like the like Black Billy Goat portrayal of Satan. And so, just racial slurs for the time period. And that's just how we meet Iago. Like,
yeah.
Like it literally, yeah, like it starts with Iago and Rodrigo just being shitty, and then you learn that like obviously Rodrigo wants to marry Desdemona, and we're like led to believe that Iago's doing all this because he doesn't like that his boss is a black man, which like okay, but I feel like that went really far. Like I'm always confused. Is Iago a slave or no? Like he's just an employee, isn't he?
Yeah,
like,
I think he's just like an employee under him.
Get a different job. Like I don't understand. He's like, oh my God, I hate that I have to serve Othello. I'm like, the employment opportunities, like if you're this pressed about it, but instead he's like, I also love that the whole play is just happening in Othello's house. Like you have like a few setup scenes and then it's like for whatever reason everyone's just hanging around Othello's house for a series of days. It's never quite explained why they're all there. They're just like, it's because like Othello's like, oh, let's go celebrate when he gets back from sea, but then they just stay there for like days and it's like the drama of like a college dorm, like everyone in and out. Like, did you see Desdemona with Cassio? Just like the scene where Desdemona's talking to Cassio in the garden, and Iago and Othello come up, and he's like, "Oh my God, they're standing really close." And it's like the whole handkerchief thing is fucking annoying as hell.
It's crazy,
especially when it's Othello's fault that she lost it.
Yeah, it's the whole. Let's talk about that. like that's like one of the central conflicts is the whole handkerchief thing.
Yeah, is that he thinks that she valued the wedding gift so little that and it's like he's not,
and it's also like that he thinks that no one else could possibly have it if
he's also like, people never lose things.
How dare my wife lose something?
Here's the thing. It's like, okay, she puts it to his head and then he like knocks it away and it falls to the floor. Why didn't she pick it up though before she left? Like,
does she have servants? I can't remember. Like maybe someone else was gonna pick it up for her.
It was Amelia. Well, and then we have like random fucking Bianca get thrown in halfway through the play just to like be like a side piece that they try to like Cassio tries to give her the handkerchief and she's like, not some hoe, don't be giving me some other lady's handkerchief.
Yeah.
It's I mean, and then like, that's a thing that then shows up in all different stories. Like literally Poe Party, the web series, has like a nod to this where like one of the people dies and has like a handkerchief stuffed in her mouth. And they're like, it looks like Annabelle's handkerchief. And she's like, it's not mine. And they're like, then procure your handkerchief. And she's like, I don't have one on me. And they're like, oh, that's convenient. And it's
suspicious.
There's like a line where she's like, that's not mine. And then Oscar Wilde's character is like, I would probably say that if it were mine too. And it's like, and I think they have a like handkerchief bit and like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, which of course is also like Shakespeare inspired. It's something that, like, in a completely different play could be played for laughs. Like, it would be so,
Yeah, definitely.
because it's so stupid when you think about, like,
It's such a small thing where it's
like murder.
like, especially because handkerchiefs, like, I don't know, we don't use them anymore because they're stupid. But
Yeah. I mean, like, it was probably embroidered. Like, like, it was normal, and I get it. Like, he's not poor, but he's not wealthy, and he's clearly not as wealthy as Desdemona was raised. Like, she was raised by a wealthy person, and so, like, that's her wedding gift from him. So, like, obviously, like, again, he thinks that she's cheating on him with a white person, and so views him as lesser the way other people do, and then thinks that she cares so little about this wedding gift that, like, you get it theoretically, but the most minimal amount of effort. And it's also the fact that he was just ready to disbelieve her, like, no matter what she said.
Yeah, whatever she tried to say, he'd be like, well, he has the handkerchief. And it's like,
his argument was always just like, well, you're a slut. Like, that was like,
yeah, calls her shaming there.
He literally calls her a whore, and then when he leaves and everyone else shows up, and they're like, what's going on? And Amelia's like, it's a little awkward. He just called her a whore. And Desdemona's like, don't be telling everyone that.
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, I like what you said, the comparison that, like, if it was in any comedy, this would be so over the top where it's like, oh, the handkerchief.
It's so funny with the handkerchief thing. Like, well, it's like in, like, 12th Night with, like, the faked letters that they write and convince him they're from somebody else. And like the miscommunication trope is so big in Shakespeare and would be played to be so funny.
Yeah.
And then in this, it leads to murder. And it's like, tone it down. Also, like, you have to think, like, based on the time period, like, these people are probably, like, around our age. So it's just a bunch of, like, people in their 20s alone in this house, like, just acting obnoxious. Like, it's like a fucking reality show. What was it I said? I said they should, like, make a modern Othello that's set up like a reality show.
Yeah.
So have people doing, like, the camera thing.
Like the talking heads and everything. Like, oh my God, you'll never believe what Othello said to me.
It's like, and he gave me this handkerchief, and like, Bianca's like, and I know, and it's like, I heard Othello call Desdemona a whore, and it's like, I think it would work. I think it would work.
I think it would work too. That'd be fun.
What are some themes in Othello that you liked?
Well, the racism.
Yeah, that's
not that I liked it, but, like, I appreciated that, like, he was trying to address that in a meaningful way.
It was a very groundbreaking way to address something like this. And it's like, I did some research, and this play was well received at the time. Like, and I think that is because they had a white person play him. Like, I don't, like, he, like, made some way for it to be easy to swallow. It's also, like, they make it clear too, Othello's an Arab Moor, they say. So he's not African. Mm-hmm. He's from the Middle East. And, like, that also plays into, like, back then in, like, the Western world, there was, like, that stupid trope of, like, ooh, the mysterious dark East of all the not white people, which will lead into when we talk about the movie. But I, like, obviously in the like, for as much as one could do in the early 17th century, this was an attempt to break down a stereotype. Does it succeed? Absolutely not, because it still ends with him killing a white woman, which then is, like, the Birth of a Nation thing. That, what I'm talking about, that old movie?
I haven't watched The Birth of a Nation, so no.
Like, do you know what it is, though?
I just know it's a very racist film.
Yeah, it's I've seen parts of it in a film class I took in college. We didn't watch the whole thing, thank God. But it's like it's a silent film, and it's just like how awful the world is for white people once the Civil War ends. And then it's like this black guy is, like, chasing this white girl up a mountain or something to rape her, and she throws herself off the cliff to commit suicide because she'd rather die than be sexually assaulted by a black man. And and so then, like, obviously Gone with the Wind came along, and like Disney's Song of the South, and so it's like, I guess we're giving Shakespeare the benefit of the doubt, because obviously, like, racism is addressed in this, but again, it, like, he doesn't dismantle any stereotype.
No.
Like he doesn't, and we've also reached a point in modern Shakespeare where, like, I've never seen a Shakespeare play in my life where they were casting by race. Like it's who like they rarely cast by gender, let alone
just
race.
like whatever.
Yeah, so it's one of those things where it's like if you look at it in a vacuum of this came out in 1604, you know,
it's pretty good. But then if you look at it the rest of the time, it's like,
And so, you know, I think the fact too that we had women playing Iago and Othello adds to it, because then it's not the same thing as like men being, you know, violent. I do think one thing it does is this play makes it clear that Shakespeare doesn't think domestic violence is okay, which
that's good.
Pretty normal back then, and there's people who do it now. And just that he wrote, it's seen as a great tragedy that Desdemona's killed. It's not seen as a like she had it coming for being a defiant wife kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I get like it makes sense considering it's not her fault at all, and like she didn't choose to lose the handkerchief and everything.
You can see people would argue because she would like talk back and not be like which was like, you know, if you look at like, you know, then Taming of the Shrew, where like her whole thing in that is that she talks back, and again that's another thing where like that's played for laughs in Taming of the Shrew, and then in this it's like her just complete downfall. And it's so tragic that she was punished for being this person, whereas like in Taming of the Shrew, well, Kate's just like that, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how many things just like cross over and everything. I guess another theme.
It's like, you broke up for a second.
You froze. Hold on.
You froze too.
Okay. I think I can hear you. Okay, now you're good.
Okay, we're good. We're good now.
What were you gonna say?
I'm sorry, my like phone keeps buzzing. My sister's like downstairs texting me, and I'm like, I told you I'm doing something up here. Trying to be Shakespearean for 3 people, Katie. Come on. It's just interesting because if you change the ending of Othello, you could sell this as a comedy. Like if it didn't end with her.
Molly's gone. Wait, Molly's back.
Fucking the world's against us today. It's like that's why like I pitched the reality TV show thing, because I think it could be so funny if you chose to do it that way.
I agree.
Sorry, I'm responding to my sister.
If you just change like the outlook of it, then I think it could be it would be an interesting twist on it.
I think so, because I mean, again, like the handkerchief thing is just so stupid when you think about it. It's like, it makes total sense, but the fact that like, you know, like all Shakespeare plays, they always say have like the shift, like whatever happens in Act 3 that will change everything. So like in Julius Caesar, it's that happened in the tragedies. It doesn't always happen in the comedies, but like, you know, it's the death of Caesar, obviously. In Macbeth, it's the death of Banquo. In Hamlet, it's Ophelia drowning herself. Like it's
all of those are like really heavy things.
This is a fucking handkerchief goes missing. Like, and that's and you could argue this is one of the saddest endings, because like by the time Hamlet dies, do you fucking care? He killed so many people.
And also like they did seem like they were like in love and everything at the start.
So in love. Like, and it's like,
and it's just because of all of this like craziness that went on in between that it's like,
because like I said, I heard that when he comes back to greet her, he approaches her and says, "Oh, my fair warrior," when he looks at her, and she says, "My dear Othello." And like that's the first thing in the play that we hear in regards of him addressing his wife, is by calling her my fair warrior. Like, that's beautiful. And that makes it like, you get the vibe that like Macbeth and Lady Macbeth are not fucking in love with each other. Like,
they're there for convenience. They were forced to be married.
The wives of Brutus and Caesar, like they're not in love. Like, but like Othello and Desdemona have like, they're like got that Romeo and Juliet type love going on, and that makes it even sadder that like essentially racism fueled like that Iago weaponized racism to prey on Othello's insecurities based on the hateful world he lived in. I think it's one of the smartest tragedies that Shakespeare ever wrote.
I agree.
I think it's underrated.
I think also like another like big theme that kind of builds into that is the whole idea of jealousy, because there's so much of it throughout the play, and like that like builds on like with the racism, like with Iago, like he's talking like he's so jealous of Othello and everything, and then like Rodrigo is jealous of Othello,
and like Bianca's jealous of Emilia.
Yeah,
and it's that what
and that just kind of builds on each other, because then it just builds animosity between everyone, so that they're like they want each other's lives and stuff like that.
Yeah, it gets bigger and bigger, and it's like the like it takes one drop to poison the well kind of thing.
Yeah,
I definitely think it's one of the smartest ones. It's one of the most underrated ones. We have like one of my favorite lines.
I don't know if I would say it's underrated, because I feel like everyone knows about Othello. I feel like it's underread.
I think within the Shakespeare community, people know it, but like no one who doesn't regular people are gonna know about Twelfth Night and like Romeo and Juliet, but people who aren't into,
I feel like they'd be more likely to know about Othello than about Twelfth Night.
Maybe. I feel like I don't know.
Like, I don't know if they would know like exactly what happens, but I feel like they would have an idea of like name like Othello, Iago, maybe, and maybe Desdemona.
I feel like more people know Twelfth Night now because of She's the Man.
Maybe.
But yeah, it's like not a lot of like I know a lot of us in the group hadn't read this until now. Like I read it by chance. Like it wasn't like we covered it in my Shakespeare course, and it's not like super. Like I'm sure there are popular adaptations. I think Kenneth Branagh fucking did this too, because what hasn't he done? That's stupid.
Yeah.
But yeah,
there was a scene in I Hate Shakespeare, the play that I'm doing this fall, but it's I don't know if I can find it, but it's like a whole like I want to say infomercial or something. Mm-hmm. They do something, or no, they do like couples therapy or something, where it's like they have like all the people lined up and like they're arguing, and it's like Jerry Springer. Oh, they're on Jerry Springer. That's what it is. And like they're arguing, and they're like, "You stole the handkerchief," and like they're yelling at each other about it and stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love everything about that.
Me too.
The handkerchief problem in Othello.
Yeah.
I typed the handkerchief into Google, and it generated in Othello as like the top response. Othello symbols. Othello quotes the handkerchief. The handkerchief in Othello.
Here, let me see if I just found the script. Let me see if I can.
Someone pointed out in this one that Desdemona's handkerchief is handled by almost every single character.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize. I'm trying to. No, I don't want to download a whole.
I'm just scrolling to find it. Oh, here it is. Okay, so they're on Jerry Springer, and they welcome all the characters. They say, "Here's Othello. He's in the military, and here's Othello's very good friend, also in the military. Welcome, Iago.
His bestie.
Yeah, they're just best friends." And then they bring in Desdemona. And they're like, "Do I understand correctly that your husband Othello strangled you?" And they're all Southern. They all have Southern accents. And she's like, "Yes, Jerry, he did." And he's like, "That sounds terrible." And she's like, "It was. He accused me of the most vilest things. And then he started strangling me, and then he killed me." And he's like, "He actually killed you?" "Yes, Jerry, he did." And all the audience is booing. It's like, "What did he accuse you of doing?" "Being unfaithful." And he's like, "Were you?" She's like, "No, I don't want to be with anyone else." "What kind of trashy girl do you take me for?" And then they're like, "Othello, why would you do this?" And he's just like, "I don't know." And then Iago's like, "You had a good reason. You had a good reason, didn't you?" And it's like, Iago, let Othello speak for himself. He's like, what was your reason? You're highly respected. You're a general. Your wife loves you. What good reason would you have for strangling her? He says, "Well, I was going to poison her, but Iago said I should strangle her instead." You listen to everything Iago tells you? I don't know. If Iago told you to jump off a bridge, would you? I don't know.
I'm looking on the same website. I was looking at the queer coding, and it says the handkerchief is mentioned over 30 times within the text, and it's like, oh my god! It's like how in the book Alice in Wonderland they have a whole chapter called like who stole the tarts, like who stole the clean tarts, and they're having like all these people come in, and it's like the farce of like who did this, and it's like it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like calm down.
Yeah.
I love like also Othello is just so stupid. Like when he comes in and is just like, I'm here to kill you, like why make that announcement? Like and then they just have an argument. When I like too though that when he talks about killing, she doesn't like right away believe him. She's like, you bitch ass, you're not gonna kill him. Like you've been running your mouth all day like a little brat.
Yeah.
It was doing it gives me like similar vibes of like Ross and Rachel and Friends when it's like we were on a break.
Yeah.
And like she lost the handkerchief.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moral of the story is to hang on to your handkerchief, ladies, because you never know.
Exactly. That could end your relationship.
It could, or your life.
Yeah.
What's some fun dialogue that you liked? I shared most of mine, basically. I know there's some we have in the shared document. Let me pull that up.
Yeah.
Because I know we put some in there ahead of time that were really good.
But I will wear my heart upon my sleeve for dolls to peck at. I am not what I am.
She loved me for the dangers I had passed, and I loved her that she did pity them.
Our bodies are our gardens, to the which our wills are gardeners.
I know, Iago, thy honesty and love doth mince this matter.
This one was relating to the jealousy argument that I had earlier, but beware, my lord of jealousy, it is the green-eyed monster which doth mock the meat it feeds on.
Yeah, I had that in my play. Even so, my bloody thoughts with violent pace shall never look back, never ebb. I had one more highlighted.
If after every tempest come such calms, may the winds blow till they have wakened death.
Nice. I love that one. Come. Good wine is a good familiar creature if it be well used.
I have two more. Okay. Let heaven and men and devils, let them all cry shame against me, yet all speak. That's Amelia. That was pretty good. And then Othello says, I kissed thee ere I killed thee, no way but this, killing myself to die upon a kiss. Kind of reminded me of Romeo and Juliet, that kind of phrasing,
More that I like is some of them are like, again, like it's so sad because he was so in love with her and vice versa.
Yeah.
Says, for she had eyes and she chose me. Like saying that like everyone else is so hateful against him because he's black, and then this rich white girl, didn't care.
Yeah.
Men enraged break those that wish them best. Oh, I love the whole scene where Amelia and Desdemona are like talking about basically how like just men suck, and Desdemona is basically like men have a god complex and they're pathetic. Like reputation is an idle and most false imposition, oft got without merit and lost without deserving.
It's a good one.
Men should be what they seem.
Yeah.
'Tis within ourselves that we are thus or thus. Wait, there was one more I had in here. Where is it? Thou waste thy words before thou givest them breath. Oh, and his unkindness may defeat my life, but never taint my love. That Desdemona says, and I just like, she's like, no matter what, she's going to love him, even if it kills her. And I'm like, she was a real one.
She was.
Loved her, big fan. You want to talk about the movie?
Yeah, so we watched Aladdin.
Which we didn't realize it has the Disney Plus warning that it has racist stuff in it. We definitely forgot that it's racist right off the bat with that.
I just forgot most of the stuff except for like the 3 songs that I knew.
Yeah, no. Obviously, it's an incredibly loose it's inspired by. It's not a direct thing. I did more research, and apparently, like, that was just big during the Disney Renaissance, where they were putting in like homages to Shakespeare and classic literature, which like makes sense and probably like played into why the Renaissance is still like revered as the best, like most artistically innovative time in Disney animation. And so like obviously, you know, Iago is the bird, and so that would make Jafar Rodrigo. So like right off the bat, I think it's funny that like the most brilliant Shakespearean villain gets reduced to the bird, voiced by Gilbert Godfrey. Like that's so fucking funny to me that they were like, okay, the most conniving Shakespeare villain is a bird voiced by Gilbert Godfrey, and then Rodrigo, who's just like got like that scrawny incel energy. They're like a now very queer coded Jafar who's way too old, and you know, and it like the race thing isn't really there. I mean, the movie's insensitive and ignorant as fuck just to how Middle Eastern like Arab races work.
But there's not really like that. It's more of a class thing.
Yeah, it's a class thing instead of and like again, Othello is like lower class than Desdemona, but he's not like impoverished.
Yeah, as like they're under him and like
Oh my, sorry, my sister needs to chill. Anyway, what were your other thoughts on Aladdin?
Yeah, thinking like it's interesting because like I didn't think about it in the sense of like the play until like you had said that it was loosely inspired. But you can see like the different parallels between it, like the arguments between them and like how Jafar like hits on
Jasmine.
That's really something. I just
what are their names?
Yeah, Jasmine, Aladdin.
I don't know if the people watching have heard of this movie. It's pretty underground.
Yeah, no one has heard of it except for us.
Who would the genie be paralleled? I think we kept trying to figure that out, and I was like, I guess he's Cassio because he's
I guess because like that's his friend, you know.
I love, again, this has nothing to do with any kind of relation to it being Othello, but when Jafar's like, I'll marry Jasmine, and the dad's
like, you don't have to.
He's like, you are so old, and it's like,
I'm glad we're acknowledging that though. I was glad they said something because it's like.
You were like, wow, this guy's like, hey, so you know how I'm 45 and your daughter's 15? What if we got married?
And it's so funny because then Aladdin comes in and the dad's like, now you don't have to marry her. He's like, this is a win-win.
Yeah, because everyone knows that when grown men propose the idea of getting with teenagers, it's in no way because they want to.
Yeah, it's totally because he's doing it for the benefit of the dad.
He's like, this is for the nation. This is.
Yeah, he's like, I know this is in our best interest. I want to just help us out here.
Obviously, like, another element that doesn't exist in Aladdin is like there's never the like, because Aladdin was lying to Jasmine, there's never the whole like he falsely thinks something of her kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more like she falsely thinks things about him.
That are
correct. Like there's like the brief moment when he doesn't know who she is at the start. But like that's not like a conflict. Like there's no conflict between
Aladdin and how is anyone supposed to know that she was
Yeah.
That movie is so stupid watching it back as a adult. Like, just like the little things too, where they're basically like at a Chinese festival after the Magic Carpet Ride. It's like supposed to be an Arab country, like a Middle Eastern country, but then like the palace looks like the Taj Mahal. They
had no furniture.
There's no furniture. It's the same way that Kenneth Branagh really did not think that the Japanese had furniture with his As You Like It. Same thing. They were like, you could just tell that it was all white people making this movie thinking they were doing the most. And they were like, oh, what do they have in ancient Arabia? Pillows on the floor. And it's like, what?
And then there's like the throne room and there's like the throne and then there's just open space. Like they kind of like zoomed out there for a bit, and I was like, we don't need this angle because it is not doing any favors.
You were like,
we don't want to draw more things.
They were like, we gotta get these movies out quickly. You were like, everyone knows that if you're in the Middle East, you have to have a big furniture to space ratio in your home.
I mean, obviously, like. You
How
can't even have a bed. You just get that chaise lounge.
I hate when she goes with Aladdin to like his fucking hovel, and she's like, "Oh,"
and then he's like looking at the palace, and he's like, "Oh, look at that place," and she's like, "Oh, the palace."
He's like, "You're so lucky you're not being controlled." I'm like, he is starving to death, Jasmine. Check your privilege, my God. Yeah, I mean, it was fun. I always like watch, and I mean, as goofy and like racially insensitive Aladdin is it still shows like that's the power of Shakespeare, that those writers were like, oh, let's put Shakespearean elements in this kid's cartoon, and it worked. Yeah. And that it worked so seamlessly that as adults who'd seen that movie many times, when I was Googling like movies inspired by Othello and I found that, I was like,
oh, I see. Yeah.
It's like once you say it, then you're like, oh my, like the first time you were ever told The Lion King is Hamlet. At first you're like, no. And then you think about it and you're like, oh shit, it is. Like in the it is the Tempest and stuff like that. It's
that High School Musical is Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah. I love like when Gabby was like, yeah, when you guys said you were gonna watch that, I was like, I don't really get why that's what they're watching. And she was like, and then I thought about it and was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It is. So do you have any other thoughts you want to say before we talk about next month?
No.
And your sonnet? Did I have anything else written down? No, I didn't. That's all my stuff. So do you want to share your sonnet, and then we'll talk about what we're doing?
Yeah. I'm reading sonnet 26. Lord of my love, to whom in vassalage thy merit hath my duty strongly knit, to thee I send this written embassage, to witness duty, not to show my wit, duty so great, which wit so poor as mine may make seem bare, in wanting words to show it, but that I hope some good conceit of thine in thy soul's thought, all naked, will bestow it, till whatsoever star that guides my moving points on me graciously with fair aspect, and puts apparel on my tottered loving, to show me worthy of thy sweet respect. Then may I dare to boast how I do love thee, till then not show my head where thou mayest prove me.
Yeah. So next month we're going to be reading Antony and Cleopatra. It's a good one. There's women in it.
Oh my God, women.
And we're going to be watching, I've already forgotten. Hold on.
I don't even know.
We're watching the movie Cleopatra from 1963.
So there's a whole plethora of adaptations.
I was looking for like what was like the highest rated, and that one is. So that's what we're doing. So that's it for this month.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for reading with us and discussing.
Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter at @bard_books for updates on when the live readings are, when the discussions are, when movie night is, and all that good stuff.
And we will see you next month.
Bye.
Bye.